What is up, everybody? My name is Famous and welcome to another episode of Pokemon Go. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the top 5 highest potential Pokemon in Pokemon Go. So in order to make this list, these are going to be Pokemon that with just a simple moveset change could absolutely dominate from a certain type perspective. Or maybe it's a Pokemon that isn't great now, but in Generation 4 it's going to receive an evolution that would push it to the top. We have multiple reasons for Pokemon to make it here, and I am excited to bring it to you. As always, if you do enjoy this type of content, be sure to like and subscribe, but without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the episode. The first Pokemon that I have on the list is going to be Piloswine, max AP of 2,284. Piloswine is a dual-type Pokemon of Ice and then also Ground-type. So this is going to be a Pokemon to say, what? Come on, how does this Pokemon have a high potential? Well, basically when you look at the stats, it's not anything that's going to stand out. In a lot of ways, it's going to be in the shadow of Jinx and then also Articuno. But that is going to completely change when Generation 4 hits. And the reason for that is because Piloswine gains an evolution, and that is known as Mamoswine. Max AP of 3,289, there is no change to the typing. So what makes this Pokemon special is that it is going to literally be the best Ice-type attacker. And the reason why I put a Pokemon like Piloswine on this list and not a Pokemon like Rhydon on this list is just because even with Rhydon gaining an evolution in Rhyperior and it being a very good Pokemon, it is not going to be able to outdo Groudon. So it's still not going to take on that #1 spot. But in this case, like I said, Mamoswine will literally be the best Ice-type attacker. And the reason for that is because of its stats. It has a higher attack stat than Jinx, which is actually the best Ice-type attacker currently in the game. And not only that, it's going to actually be able to outpace a lot of Pokemon as well. It will stay in, it acts a little bit more like a tank. If you check out that HP stat, that's actually really decent as well. So in a lot of ways, this is going to be a Pokemon that has a massive potential in Piloswine, and it will take on that #1 spot as long as it ends up getting at least a decent Ice-type moveset. So let's go ahead and move into the #4 spot. This is going to be a Pokemon that I'm very excited to talk about, and that is Sceptile, max AP of 2,584. Sceptile is a pure Grass-type Pokemon. If you did watch the last episode, I talked about this. This is basically going to be related to Community Day. So Venusaur received a Community Day moveset that basically pushed it up to that #1 spot. And that's simply because of the move Frenzy Plant. But if you were to take a look at the stats, Venusaur actually doesn't have that great of an attack stat. It just has such an awesome move that it still pushes it up to the spot that it needs to be at. So where does that put Sceptile? Basically, it is believed to be that Sceptile will get a Community Day moveset. That makes perfect sense, right? It is a part of the Generation 3 starters. It seems that all of the starters are going to get a Community Day. So as long as Sceptile ends up getting a pretty comparable moveset to Frenzy Plant or even Frenzy Plant, that would mean that Sceptile is going to actually be better than Venusaur. If you check out that attack stat of 223, that is roughly 30 higher than Venusaur's, meaning that it's going to absolutely dominate as long as it gets a pretty good moveset. This is a Pokemon with a massive potential that I think a lot of people are going to be overlooking right now, but in a couple of months or whenever Sceptile gets its Community Day, it's going to be a Pokemon that takes it with storm, as long as the exclusive move is going to be grass related. Let's go ahead and move into the #3 spot. This is going to be an interesting one. So what I'm going to call this, instead of just like a specific Pokemon, we're going to go ahead and call it the Ralts family. So let's go ahead and learn a little bit more about it. We're going to have two different options. The first one is going to be on the left of Gallade from Generation 4, picking up that fighting type. Then we have Gardevoir with the Psychic Fairy type. So you might be saying, well, I mean, Gardevoir already doesn't have much room for potential because it's already the best Fairy type attacker. So let's go ahead and discuss this a little bit, by the way. As far as when we're talking about how to actually get them, you would have to use an evolution item to do so, but I can't confirm or deny how Niantic will do it, so I don't think that that's going to be part of the conversation. Instead, let's focus on what Gardevoir is missing, and that's going to be a quick move that is Fairy type. but it is believed to be that Ralts is going to get a Community Day move set. If it does get selected as a Community Day Pokemon, we can only cross our fingers and hope that the quick move instead is going to happen, and it will be Fairy type. This is possible because we have seen it with Smackdown being a quick move for Tyranitar. That's what we need for Gardevoir. If that is to happen, you will actually see more people using Gardevoir versus Dragon-type Pokemon than just Dragon-type versus Dragon-type. I think that if Gardevoir just simply has that double Fairy-type moveset, it will absolutely dominate and has some major potential. But when we look on the flip side, Gallade also has some major potential from a Fighting-type perspective. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about why. When you check out that attack stat, at 237, that's actually 3 higher than Machamp. So that means if Gallade were to get a counter dynamic punch, this would be a Pokemon that would literally take on the #1 fighting type perspective. And without having any legendary or mythicals really get in the way from a fighting type perspective when Generation 4 hits, this would put Gallade in a huge position, which is why I selected Ralts as the highest potential family of Pokemon. So let's go ahead and move into the number 2 spot, and that is Metagross, max AP of 3,637. Metagross is a dual type Pokemon of Steel and then also Psychic type. So for the most part, people don't really think about Metagross from a Psychic type perspective. Most of the time it's related to its actual moveset that it was given. But let's talk about why Metagross has a massive potential in Pokemon Go. First off, go ahead and check out the stats. The attack stat of 257, absolutely phenomenal. Check out that overall ranking of 6th. This is a Pokemon that you think would get used a little bit more, but I do have a theory as to why you don't hear as much about it. Basically, Steel type unfortunately is in the same boat as Fairy type, where it was kind of robbed of a good moveset. So you've got Fairy type that doesn't have a quick move, and then you have the Steel type which doesn't have a good charge move. The best charge move from a Steel type perspective is going to be like Flash Cannon, for instance, for Metagross, and that's really not a good move. But the reason why Metagross has a massive potential in the future is that once again, it is believed to be a Community Day Pokemon. If Metagross is selected as a Community Day Pokemon, it could theoretically get the move Meteor Mash. And if that happens, and if it ends up being basically a 2-bar or a 3-bar charge move, since we haven't seen that move put into the game, that would not only mean that Metagross would officially become the best Steel type perspective with the best Steel type ideal moveset, it would also move up in the rankings whenever it is basically a part of a raid list and other Pokemon are just ahead of it just simply because it has a better moveset than what Metagross has. So I think Metagross has a massive potential in the game. Although it is already at #1, it definitely stands a chance of improvement. So the next Pokemon I wanted to talk about on this list is going to be Ho-Oh. So Ho-Oh is a Pokemon that got absolutely robbed from a moveset perspective. Now, a lot of times what ends up happening is a lot of people put Ho-Oh and Suicune into the same sentence. But I would argue that that's really not the case. The difference between the two Pokemon is that although they both share the same aspect of having a terrible moveset, Ho-Oh actually has the potential of being a very good Pokemon, while Suicune would fall down below Kyogre, potentially Gyarados, and then even Vaporeon, even if it did have a comparable moveset such as Water Gun or Waterfall. But like I said, it doesn't have it, it can't have it, so it's kind of taken out of the picture. Ho-Oh is a different story though. When we take a look at its stats, check out that attack stat, roughly 240, right? It ranks out at 23rd, that's not bad at all. It has a high defense, it has a decently high attack, it's got pretty good stamina. This is giving it an overall rank of 3rd in Pokemon Go. This is absolutely crazy. So when you're talking about Ho-Oh from like a moveset perspective, what's kind of interesting about it is going to be the fact that it doesn't have a double fire type moveset. And a lot of people have mentioned, well, it has to do with what the Pokemon can learn. It has to do with that. It's not Niantic that's making that choice. Well, I actually have something else that I wanted to bring up to you instead. That's going to be the idea that there are still moves out there that haven't been assigned as a quick move or as a charge move. That could actually be really good for Ho-Oh. In an instance where Ho-Oh isn't going to be that great of a legendary Pokemon just because of a moveset, I am so shocked that it doesn't have an exclusive move. If we take a look at two examples and we just look past Fire Blast, I would say that Sunny Day and then Sacred Fire have some massive potential to be a new move for Ho-Oh. I'm not saying that it needs a double fire type moveset from a quick move perspective while also having one for a charge move. The fact that it has Fire Blast, which is already not an ideal fire type moveset, means just give it a move that's going to be better than the rest of them. You got Blast Burn for Charizard, why not something like Sacred Fire or Sunny Day for Ho-Oh? Introduce a new move. It may not even need that ideal moveset on the front end while still being a very good fire option. I think Ho-Oh is in desperate need of some type of move, potentially Sacred Fire, potentially Sunny Day. But anyways, these are the top 5 Pokemon that have the highest potential in the game. Go ahead and let me know if you agree. What is another Pokemon that you think has some massive potential? Be sure to put it in the comments section below, and I will see you next time.
Hit me like a tidal wave, triggered by the